Hello, welcome back to the channel. So it's been a while since I've been back at this place. I didn't realise how much I missed it. The calm, the quiet, this little sort of Greenland, woodland little area. But in this video, I'm going to offer some advice, and I'm going to say now, it's probably not the best advice. It's probably not advice which will work for everybody. But it's something that I've realised, especially this year and this month, this month of September in 2023, that is not bad advice for the right type of mindset if you need to get there. But yeah, I just thought I'll take you for a walk with me and sort of tell you a little something. So sit back, grab yourself a coffee or drink or tea, nice cold drink, I don't know, whatever tickles your fancy today, and enjoy the video. A very good day to you. Thank you so much for clicking on this thumbnail. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. My name's Nathan, and I'm going to start this video a little bit differently by ringing off some of the job titles that I could call myself. You know, I'm an actor, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a YouTuber, obviously, a photographer. Both me and my wife own a production company and a theatre company. And if this is the first time that you've tuned into one of my videos, I don't often sort of introduce myself in such a manner. But I feel with the advice that I want to sort of share with you today, and the tips or whatever you want to sort of call them, I feel it's sort of like slightly relevant in a way. Because the advice I want to give, and I'm going to get straight to it, is quite simply, start before you learn. Begin before you learn. And there's a reason behind that, is because all of this, all that I'm doing now, apart from the acting side of it, I started before I learned. Because I had the mindset to begin with that I should learn how to do it before I started doing it. And I kept sort of like stumbling. I kept sort of like putting it off. I said, well, you know, I want to learn how to be a filmmaker, but you know, I can't afford the camera, and I can't sort of get my head around the editing equipment, and I can't sort of do this. And there was a lot of can'ts in the sentences that I was saying. So in the end, I went, stuff it. I'm buying myself a camera. And then I'm like, stuff it. I'm gonna make my first film. And then I was like, stuff it. I'm gonna start taking photographs. And I learned along the process. You know, when I first bought my camera, I had no clue about any aspect of what a camera can actually do. I didn't understand the triangle, which is ISO, shutter speed, or aperture. Didn't understand anything like that. I shot on the inbuilt functions because I thought that was, you know, a tip or trick. And then same as filmmaking, I just picked up the camera one day and just made my first film. And I had no clue how to edit it. I had no clue how to shoot it. I had no clue about frame rates or anything like that. But I learned. By all the mistakes that I did, I learned. And the thing is, I wouldn't have learned what I now know if I didn't make those mistakes. If I sort of sat there and watched YouTube videos, I couldn't have learned anything until I picked up the camera and started going. And I think that's a very sort of interesting tip in a way. Because I think a lot of people do that. They said, you know what, I want to do this, but I'm going to wait until I know how before I start. So that's what this video is about. Me taking you through the process of what I've learned along the way before I learned to do it before I did it. If that makes sense. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, you know what to do. And we'll talk more as I take my little walk around my hidden paradise in London. Well, let's start off with the acting side of it first, because I think that's the easiest part of it to explain. Now, I knew I wanted to be an actor from a very, very young age. And at that particular time, I wasn't in the position to do any training or anything like that. So, of course, I went off and I joined some andran groups and I just started acting. Was I any good? Probably not. I probably overacted in many situations. And you know, that spurred me on to go to college and then go to drama school and then go out into the big wide world of the working actor. And, you know, that's where the training sort of started coming in. Yeah, I learned a lot at college. I learned how to sort of develop a character, you know, how to sort of properly memorize lines and how to sort of build a scene and a sequence, you know, the sort of the whole plot of storytelling. Drama school got a little bit more in depth on how to sort of like stay in character and develop the emotions that come along with the character. But then I learned on the job. I learned what it was like to be a real actor when I went and started touring around the country, around Europe. And, you know, it's the most simplest of the journeys that I've had to take, really. Like, I've taken bits and bobs from all my training. I've taken bits and bobs of advice from people that I've met or who I've worked with. And I've worked with some wonderful, talented actors, some famous, some not so famous. And I've just taken all that and put it all into a little bucket and I dive into it as and when I need it, when I'm developing a character or when I'm developing a scenario or a story or a background and all these things, which then I try to sort of pass on to people when I direct them or when I try to sort of advise them on this particular side of the career that I'm part of. But then talking to filmmaking was definitely something which I wanted to do in the process of me working as an actor because I wanted to get into film, and it's a very difficult business to get into, and once you're there, you know, it's very easy to fall out of as well. And there are many famous actors and many struggling actors who always feel, and I'm definitely one of them, who has felt, sorry, a dog's just jumped in the water, hello mate, who has sort of felt that, you know, once they've almost got the sort of the rub and they're going to go on to do more, and then all of a sudden you have a lull moment. So I bought my camera, and literally the weekend I bought it, I went out and I shot my very first film. My very first film pulled into focus. I've had the camera for 3 days. It's a glorified music video, if I'm completely honest, and it doesn't really sort of like show much, but I wanted to try, I wanted to test out. I had the story in my head, I knew exactly what I wanted to get out of it. It only had Phoenix in it, and yeah, it just sort of like developed into a bit of nothingness. And then I ended up sort of only editing it on the... no, it's all good, it's all good. That's a clan and a half, isn't it? I really should pan you around so you know what I'm talking to, but, you know, it's on a tripod. Anyway, so where was I? That's right. I ended up editing this particular film originally on After Effects because I didn't know any different. I didn't have an absolute Scooby-Doo what to do. So I took one of the most difficult editing programs and I edited my very first film on it. I had no clue the wonders that After Effects could actually do. I just edited a 3-4 minute short video, short movie on this unbelievable bit of technology, not knowing that Premiere Pro was the right one to do. Until later on, when I discovered Premiere Pro, I was like, oh, okay, this is for filmmaking. This is for filmmaking plus effects. And it made perfect sense at the time. And eventually I went off and I re-edited the film in Premiere Pro and made it better. But I wouldn't have known that if I didn't make that first mistake. I learned on the job. And that goes the same as photography. Now, I never wanted to be a photographer. It was never my plan to take up photography, even as a hobby. But when I bought my camera and I wanted to make movies with Benham Media, my idea was to take headshots and shoot showreels for actors to earn money so that I can fund my own work. That was the whole process behind it. So I called a few mates up and I said, right, do you want some free headshots? And then I can learn how to make sort of decent headshots for actors. And they did. They came along and took some photographs and they were crap. They were literally crap. And I had one friend who was grown up enough to tell me that they looked awful and they didn't want to use them. But it's because I didn't know how to use Photoshop, because that's what I use in the first aspect. I didn't know anything about Lightroom. I didn't know anything about Adobe. So I used Photoshop because that's the name that I heard out and about and what you needed to use as a photographer. And of course, Photoshop, you can do some wonderful, sensational things with Photoshop. But I didn't need that particular program to do the work that I needed to do. So I sort of like gave myself more work than what I actually needed, rather than just, sitting back and learning better, I guess, which sort of contradicts the whole point behind this. But then again, I wouldn't have probably looked at Lightroom if I didn't make that mistake by using Photoshop in the first place. I didn't know anything about masks, so I didn't know anything about sort of like the healing tool and anything like that. So they were pretty diabolical, if I'm honest. But again, with every single photograph that I took something new and I took something on, and then obviously I learned about Lightroom, and then I sort of started to use Lightroom, and then I started watching the videos and process the sort of how to become a better photographer and a better editor via sort of learning on the job. I would take some photographs, I will watch a video, say that looks pretty cool, and I'll learn how to do it. To when I'm now at the stage where I watch YouTubers and I'm like, I know how they've done that. Or when they're talking me through a tutorial, I already know most of the things that they're talking about. Even to the stage where I watch a particular YouTuber who doesn't even explain what they're doing. They just talk you through the process of how to edit the way that they've just done this particular photo or this particular sort of shot or this particular scene. And my wife's there with steam coming out of her ears going, what's going on? And I understand it. I know exactly what's going on. I'm following it step by step because I've learnt along the process. But that's it, really. That's what I mean by start doing or begin before you learn. Now, I am going to end this video by reiterating that this probably isn't the best advice for everyone, if it's any good advice whatsoever. Like, who in their right mind starts something that they don't know what on earth they're doing? Of course, don't start driving a bus before you do, or like a ship or a tanker or, anything like that. Like, yeah. But I think in this type of skill set, it sort of works. And I think in other type of skill sets, it can work. And if you are somebody who wants to be in the arts or in the craft or anything like that, it doesn't hurt to to start trying. If you are the type of person who's like, I'll wait until I know better, or I'll wait until this and I'll wait until that, and I can't do it now. And you sort of get yourself in that mindset, it can sort of work. Like, thing is that if you're a child, you don't just sort of stand up one day and start walking. You sort of stand up and you stumble about a bit and then you learn how to walk. If you're learning how to write, you don't just write straight away. You scribble, you draw, you learn by doing. And I think that's something when it comes to the art form, to any art form, that the ability to sort of like have the courage to get up and start is a good beginning, rather than going, I need to learn how to use a camera first. I need to learn how to edit first. I need to know sort of what a good photograph looks like before I can take a good, like I take terrible photographs sometimes. I mean, they are god awful. But then I wouldn't know how a good photograph looks if I didn't take the bad photographs. So yeah, if you take anything away from this, I think that's the one thing. Like, it's okay to make mistakes along the roads. And with every mistake that I've made a better choice going forwards. You know, my videos, I feel, have got better. The sounds got better. The concept of them have got better since my very first video. I try to put a story together for you, so, you know, to keep you sort of entertained and engaged. So, yeah, that's it, really. And I hope you've taken something away from this video. If you have, please consider giving this video a thumbs up, because it helps me out, it helps out the channel. And if this is the first time that you've sort of been introduced to me and you like what you see, hit the subscribe button down there. And if it's not the first time, why haven't you subscribed yet? Like, I think it's a bit rude. I'm only kidding. Of course it's not rude. It's your choice, do whatever you want. But do you know what? I would like you to be part of this journey with me. And it's a fun journey. And again, I'm still learning. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know everything, because I don't. My 2-year-old tells me quite often that I've not learnt everything. She's quite harsh, really, in that way. Swipes my videos on my phone very quickly. But I procrastinate. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and until next time, I will see you in the next one. Bye!